In this lesson, we're going to talk about LC circuits. LC oscillators is where you don't have a resistor, you just have an inductor and a capacitor. And we look about how that oscillates because it sets up a differential equation, a second order, just like we did oscillations back in Unit 7 on the mechanics side of things. So similar to the simple harmonic motion, we get an electrical version of oscillation because of the way the math works out. All right, so the last thing we do in here is our LC circuits, and LC circuits is kind of interesting. It ends up being a second order differential equation, and it can be very, very complicated. Outside of the scope of this class is our LC circuits, where you have resistors and inductors and capacitors. Those are pretty complicated, requires pretty advanced math to be able to, or just a little bit more advanced than what you would cover in calculus. Anyway, so LC circuits are what it sounds like, has an inductor, has a capacitor. Some interesting things do happen, and the voltage and current won't stabilize to a value. Like RC circuits and RL circuits, those are we call first order circuits. They will stabilize to a value. LC circuit is unstable in its nature, and I'll show you what's going to happen. But the voltage and current will oscillate. We'll derive that here. And there's no energy loss. Resistors are how energy kind of is lost out of the circuit itself. It's lost as energy dissipates from the thermal energy. But when you have an L and C and you have little to no resistance, there's no energy loss. It just oscillates forever. And so let's look at a differential equation of the setup for it. Basically, the idea is you have a capacitor. And imagine at some point, some charge was added to the capacitor. And you don't know where it happened, but it was just magically done. So we have some charge and some current going at this point. It's not like it's just been sitting there forever and there's no charge, there's no energy. Something has happened at that point. Now, let's look at what happens when you think about it. And let's just define a current convention. Let's say the current is going this way around the loop here. Okay, so this is the I. So then when we do our voltage, the voltage drop, this would be the voltage across the inductor, and this would be the voltage across the capacitor like that. So that would be the setup. And remember, we always want the current convention to be like the positive side is where the current's going into the element like that, right? So what is our kind of, let's start with our normal just KVL. Like if we start down here, we go here, we're going to drop, we're going to go minus VC, and then we're going to drop, we're going to do minus VL, that's equal to 0. So there you get the VL, move it to the other side is going to be negative VC. Cool. Now, what are the equations that relate? The I, how do they relate? Well, we know for a capacitor, the current through the capacitor is C dV dt. And for an inductor, we know VL is L di dt. Okay? So on this side, we're going to say L di dt. And on this side, we're going to say, this side is going to be negative VC here. But it's the same current, right? So the current through the capacitor, right, is I. So therefore, di dt is actually equal to C times the second derivative of the voltage squared, like this. All right, just take the derivative of both sides. And so then I can replace the di dt with this part here. So this is going to be L times C dV dt squared is equal to negative VC, negative VC. And this would be VC, by the way, voltage across the capacitor. And now you have a second derivative of something is going to be negative 1 over LC times VC. Now, remember, back in AP Physics C and Mechanics, when we did general oscillation, Unit 7, right, general oscillations, we said if you have a second order differential equation like this, then the solution to this is going to be, this is omega squared, it's going to be A cosine of omega t plus V. It's going to oscillate. And that's from the harmonic oscillation scenario, right? The physical pendulums, the pendulums, simple pendulums, and the mass springs. This would be the solution. And notice that if you just replace the X with the VC, like this is kind of like my X, if you will. And if you want to review, you should probably review some of the Unit 7 material, the general oscillations. Just remember that. Then this guy right here is going to be omega squared, and the solution to the voltage on the capacitor is going to be this sinusoidal. So VC is going to be A cosine, omega being 1 over square root of LC times T plus V, right? Because omega squared is equal to the 1 over LC here. So the omega is going to be square root of 1 over LC. Okay, so then what you're going to see is the voltage is going to be oscillating, and the current is also going to do the same thing because they're just derivatives of each other, right? Like the current, I don't know which one. You could use this one here. Wait, no. This one here. You take the derivative of this times c, you'll get a current. Derivative of cosine still is a sine curve, right? So it's still going to be sinusoidal. So what ends up happening is the voltage on the capacitor here is going to oscillate with a sine wave at a specific frequency based on this. And the inductor voltage is also going to do that, and the current is going to do that. It's going to oscillate this whole time, just like when we did simple harmonic oscillation, because the solution to this kind of differential equation in general is a sine or a cosine. Has to have a negative sign, has to have an omega squared. So that negative sign is really important, by the way. Without that negative sign, actually it's not a sinusoid. So you do got to verify and be very careful when you're setting it up that it does happen. But all you really need to know is that the LC, the oscillation frequency, is there. And if you ever want to know the period, right, it's 2 pi over omega, which is 2 pi square root of LC. All right, and that's going to be the period of the equation if you want to know that for whatever reason, right? So let's look through a problem here. So a circuit represents has a 9-volt battery, 25 millifarad capacitor here, 5 Henry inductor, 500 ohm resistor, and a switch in 2 positions, S1, S2. Initially, the capacitor is uncharged, switch is open. Okay. Experiment 1, the switch is closed to position S1 at times T1, right here. So now it's an RC circuit. Calculate the value of the charge on the bottom plate of the capacitor a long time after the switch is finished. So a long time, there's no current going through the capacitor, right? So the I is 0. So that means the voltage drop here is 0, and the voltage drop here is going to be 9 volts by our loop rule, right? You wait a long time for a RC circuit. You got to review your RC circuits. The current goes to 0. The current 0, there's no voltage here, and then by KVL, the entire drop here has to match this 9 volts by that loop rule. So we know the voltage across the capacitor, and Q is equal to CV. So we just take the 25 millifarad times 9 volts. And what is that? 225? 9 times 25 is 225. And this would be millicoulombs. That would be the charge on the capacitor. So that's part 1. On the axis below, sketch a graph of the magnitude of the charge of the bottom plate of the capacitor as a function of time. Okay, that's just going to be the Q, right? We say the top and the bottom plate have the same charge. On the axis, explicitly label the intercepts asymptotes maximum or minimum. So the charge starts off at 0 because it's uncharged, and then it's going to eventually reach this 225. So this asymptote is going to be 225 millicoulombs. Let's see. So the charge is 0. Then at T1, it's going to go and then have this exponentially approach this maximum charge, right? That's the solution to an RC circuit. So nothing new there. That was previous. That was back in unit 11, or the previous unit when we did circuits. Sketch a graph of the current through the resistor as a function of time in this scenario. So once the switch is open, there's no current. Immediately as you close it, the current can jump up right away, but eventually the current's going to go to 0, right? So what happens here is the current spikes, right? Spikes to a point because the current can change. Voltage can't change instantly on a capacitor. Current can change, and then the current will decay to 0 because once you wait long enough, what we said on a capacitor, the current would be 0, so there couldn't be any current through the resistor. The loop would have no current because the capacitor has no current. Okay, experiment 2, capacitor is again uncharged when the switch is closed position S1 at time t equals 1. The switch is then moved to position S2 at time t equals T2, and the magnitude of the charge on the capacitor is 105 millicoulombs, allowing electromagnetic oscillation in the LC circuit. So that's what we talked about. Now that we switched this guy into this position, we have some charge on here. We have some energy in there. It's going to oscillate. It's going to exchange energy because the voltage, once the voltage goes to 0, right, there's no charge on the capacitor, but then there's a lot of current at that point. And then once the current here goes to 0, there's no energy in here, but then all the energy will be stored in the 1/2 CV squared because the energy, right, is going to be 1/2 CV squared plus 1/2 Li squared, and it's going to be constant because there's nothing that's going to cause a change in energy. So there's an exchange because the voltage is not fixed, it's oscillating. It'll have at some points it will have maximum energy, full energy in the capacitor, and sometimes it will have full energy in the inductor. Okay, calculate the energy stored in times T2s, and the magnitude of the charge of the capacitor is there. What's the energy stored in the capacitor? Well, energy stored is 1/2 CV squared. And we know the charge, and we know Q is equal to CV. So we can always solve for V, Q over C, plug that into here. So the energy is going to be 1/2 C times Q over C squared, which is 1/2 C times Q squared over C squared. One of those cancel. You get 1/2 Q squared over C. And now you can do this because you know that it's 105 times 10 to the negative 3 coulombs squared. And then the capacitor was 25 millifarads, 25 times 10 to the negative 3. Notice I use the converting from milli to get rid of the prefixes because we want to use SI when you're doing this. 3, and I'm going to get 0.2205 joules is the energy there. What's the maximum current that will be present during the oscillations? Cool. Easiest way to do that is to say, well, all the energy will then be 1/2 Li squared, 0.22505, because when we have the maximum current is when all of the energy is stored in the inductor and the capacitor has no energy. The voltage on the capacitor would be 0, which occurs, right, in a sinusoid. It will go through 0 at some point. So then the I is going to be 2 times the energy divided by L and then square root, where that's the maximum energy. And this is where, because like right now at when we're at T2, all the energy is in the capacitor. Why do I know that? Because there's no current that flows. Right now, when we're at T1, we're charging the capacitor, right? And then there's no current here. The I is 0. So immediately when I close this switch, the I is still 0. Because remember, the current through an inductor cannot change instantly. So it's still 0, which means there's no energy in the inductor, which means all the energy is in the capacitor at this point, right? So that's why I can use that form of energy, right? This is 0.2205 divided by the inductance. What was the inductance? 5 henries. 5, and that will give you, I'll go ahead and use the calculator in this one. Just, we might need some numbers. And that is 0.3 amps. Okay, calculate the time rate of change of the current when the charge on the capacitor is 50 millicoulombs. Time rate of change of the current. So that means I want to know di dt when the charge on the capacitor is equal to 50 millicoulombs. Well, how do I know this part? The easiest way to do this one is to think about the voltage across the inductor is L di dt, right? So if I know the voltage on the inductor, then I could then just do VL over L. That's one way to do it. Rather than solve the differential equation, because again, that might be kind of annoying. That would probably be the easiest way to do it. So I want to know the voltage across the inductor. Well, the voltage across the inductor is the same as the voltage across the capacitor with maybe a sign difference, but they're going to have the same voltage across them in terms of magnitude because they are in parallel, right? So the voltage across the capacitor, we know Q is equal to CV. So the voltage across the capacitor is Q over C. Oh, great. They gave us the charge. So that means we're at 2 volts at this point. So then the rate of change is going to be 2 divided by 5. The inductance was 5, so that's going to be 0.4. And then it's amps per second. That's the rate of change of the current there because it's going to be amps per second or volts per Henry if you want to do it that way as well. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, just to like improve the quality of the channel so that it shows up more so we can share this out with more and more students out there. The other thing is if you do need extra help, if you're needing maybe some more practice questions, more guidance on multiple choice questions, we do have program options to help you practice. Also run office hours. I answer questions for students, things like that. A little bit more just structured guidance. If you feel like you're needing some of that, go ahead and click the description below. There will be a link that takes you to a website where you can see about how the different programs operate for all the AP Physics and AP Calculus programs we run.